Hi guys, welcome back to another video. I am slightly exhausted because I had a little bit of a long day. It was a fun day, but a long day. And I recently watched The Substance. I watched it last night and I thought I would do a little film review again. And I have to agree with the critiques I've read about it online. Like, even though it's titled The Substance, there's not a whole lot of substance to the movie itself. I just thought it wasn't really doing anything. The message wasn't very groundbreaking when it comes to ageism and this patriarchal capitalist society that we live in. I do like how it's filmed though, and I do like all the different shots of it. It's my first time really watching like a body horror film, so that element was very interesting. It's just very meta to watch The Substance because I know there's a lot of speculation that The Substance is like a reference to Ozempic, but I've heard like the filmmakers say that, you know, it's a metaphor for basically like any cosmetic surgery that can be done. It's not necessarily with like Ozempic in mind, but it could also reference Ozempic. But
also, as a side note about Ozempic and how celebrities abuse this life-saving medication for their own vanity, I just needed to like comment on that. I'm honestly like so furious about that, and I feel like I can't end this video until I say something about it because like one of my loved ones like could use Ozempic, and it's life-saving medication for people who are at risk of developing like type 2 diabetes if you're like clinically obese, and it's just like I just feel like if you're a celebrity and the only reason you're on Ozempic is so that you can maintain your like youthful appearance and look skinny and all of this bullshit. I just feel like you should be forced whenever you're on the red carpet or having your pictures taken or whatever. You should wear a sign or like have something on a t-shirt that says, I value my own personal appearance and being skinny over the well-being and the health of the majority of a lot of Americans who desperately need access to Ozempic, but they can't because of how fucking expensive it is. Anyways, those people can get fucked. Absolute pieces of shit.
a lot of the critiques like I read, at least the one that I read that really stuck out to me was that I feel like it reinforces the ageist, sexist, misogynistic trends in the film, and the male gaze in particular, instead of critiquing them. Like, for instance, I don't know. What I will say though is that that scene where like Sue has like she takes over like the show or whatever, and she has her own little like workout studio session or whatever, it doesn't feel like you're watching like a workout video. It truly just feels like you're watching like an erotic like dance or something. And I understand that's like the point. Like, the point is that this person has to like hypersexualize themselves in order to like make it in this like cutthroat industry that's like run by a bunch of like white men basically. And what I will say though is I wanted to buy that leotard or that bodysuit so bad, the one that Sue wears after watching that little dance performance, and I don't know why, because I know damn well the second it arrives, whatever knockoff I find online, I'm not gonna have like anywhere to wear it unless I wear it to like Mardi Gras or like Halloween or something like that forever from now, and The Substance is gonna be like old news by then. I was just like, you know, whenever you're like watching something and you like hyperfixate on something, you're like, I need to have it, and then you like let yourself kind of sit on it for 24 hours and you're like, that was a dumb idea. You know, you wouldn't be happy with that, because I know if I were to try on like a copycat of that costume or whatever, I would hate myself in it because I'm not happy with my body all the time. And so whatever, I prefer to live in my delusions, and it's fine, and anybody can wear what they want, so whatever. But yeah, I don't know, The Substance, I I don't think it did anything interesting or revolutionary. It feels very meta to watch it because it's made by Hollywood. It's a well-known fact that celebrities and famous like actors will like go on Ozempic in order to, you know, adhere to this impossible standard that they're complicit in having like set up basically. And we're seeing this weird reversal in like body types or like beauty trends, whereas in the 2010s in high school when I grew up, it was very much like the hourglass like Kim K figure where being thick was like really in, or being slim thick was really in for a woman. And now we're kind of regressing back to this like Y2K era that really values being super skinny, I guess. And so now there's this craze with trying to be as skinny as possible. And I also think the wellness industry is just repackaged like diet culture. They seem to like really value like wellness, even though I think it tends to equate wellness with skinniness without like explicitly stating it. But one thing I think that the Substance did really good job of is that at the end of like her workout video, Sue is just like, oh, and by the way, remember to take care of yourself, which I think is like as like an afterthought. And I thought that was really funny because you just watch this person do an extremely sexual like dance routine and you don't really get anything out of it, and it's kind of like an afterthought. She's like, oh, and by the way, make sure to take care of yourself. And I think that's like a great like summary of like the self-care industry, where it's about consumerism, about materialism. It's not actually about taking care of yourself. And it's also about like, you know, beauty standards that are set up, you know, that's very like I guess based on like whiteness and stuff like that, very unrealistic. And I don't know. With that being said, it's like there's nothing wrong with being like being skinny, or you know what I'm saying, because everybody's beautiful. Another woman's beauty is not the absence of your own, basically. And with that being said, I'm chronically online, right? And I see this like trend in which this very like skinny, underweight body type is being like celebrated again in culture. And I'm just afraid there's gonna be a lot of like pro Anna or pro like anorexia forums online, because like, to be honest, my family has really struggled with disordered eating on like both extreme ends, and I'm not going to talk about it in detail. Thankfully, it really hasn't happened to me, but it's definitely happened to like other people in my family that are very close to me. And I'm like, I'm a little worried. I don't really know. It's just weird. I'm glad for two things. I'm glad I didn't grow up in the early, I'm glad I wasn't a teenager during the early like 2000s when like being anorexic was like the ideal and being underweight was like the beauty standard or whatever. And I'm glad that I didn't grow up with like TikTok, you know, because I was one of those kids that used like YouTubers. Like I viewed YouTubers as my friends. I had like parasocial relationships with these people because my psychological needs were not being met in my real life environment. And so I would, you know, go online for like to find like my niche interests and like communities and people like me. And it was just but I think now I'm really worried with kids that have like unlimited access to like TikTok, that they're gonna get addicted to it, like with iPad kids and stuff like that. Sorry, this is a crazy rant. I need to chill. With that being said, I think I really do need to improve my technological skills, and that worries me. But that's different from just like, I'm not like allergic to social media. I'm very like, I think I deleted TikTok for like many years now. I deleted TikTok, I think my freshman year of college, which was forever ago from now. But I remember I was addicted to it. Just because, well, first off, it's doom scrolling. There's that. And then also, you just want to laugh, and like all of the content I would find on there was just like shit that would make me like laugh my ass off, because when you're laughing, it's like you're escaping your reality, and for like a brief moment in time, and then that brief moment turns into another reel, which turns into another reel, which turns out, oh my gosh, I've just wasted 3 hours of my life on my phone. And that I'm scared of. I know for a fact, sorry, this is a tangent about screen time now, but you know, like social media informs our conception of what is beautiful, so I think it's important to discuss. And also, like, the algorithm, speaking on beauty, it, like, rewards people who have, like, a symmetrical face, right? And, like, people who are more conventionally beautiful and, like, thumbnails, they get more, like, clicks and stuff like that, which is, like, disheartening to see, but that's just how people are, like, wired, I guess. But we live in fucking crazy times. I'm glad I didn't grow up as a teenager during the early 2000s, and I'm glad I didn't grow up as a teenager now, because I know for a fact I would have been addicted to TikTok, because my parents are technologically illiterate, I'll say that, and they don't really know how anything works, and they don't monitor, like, you know, my time on the internet at all. Like, growing up, they never did that. And so I'm just scared that if I were to be, like, a teenager, like, in this moment in time, I'd be cooked. I'd be so cooked, because I would just, like, my entire life would just be consumed by just endless scrolling, which is extremely depressing, which I think has really awful long-term effects. Like, I think it fucks with your, like, executive functioning and your ability to, like, plan for the long term, and breaking down, like, big goals into, like, smaller steps and stuff like that. And because you're constantly seeking, like, immediate gratification and so on and so forth, and then it leads you to, like, more isolation, and it's like it distorts your worldview, because, like, the discourse, like, online discourse, you can't really find, like, offline. Like, a lot of the topics that are really, like, relevant in, like, this online sphere that we've, like, curated for ourselves, a lot of people simply just aren't talking about that. That's why I'm, like, reluctant to say that I'm all that worried about this, like, rise in, like, glorifying a very, like, skinny body type, because, like, I'm from the South, and growing up, it's just like, so I recently moved back from Portland, right? And that's, like, a very, like, white city. I think it's, like, the majority of the people who live there are white. And then I moved back to, like, Louisiana, and I grew up in Texas, so I'm used to seeing, you know, all different kinds of, like, people and stuff like that. And just for me, growing up in the South, it's like, being ultra skinny isn't really the beauty ideal. Like, we, like, I don't know how else to put it, but down the South, we like people, you know, with a lot more curves. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? It's just, but also it depends, right? Because I'm sure there's plenty of, like, white women from the South who feel, like, the pressures of this, like, very traditional beauty standard or whatever. But the substance, I don't know how I feel about that movie. It's not something I'd rewatch. I don't think it was groundbreaking in any way, and if anything, I think it reinforced the male gaze, just because, I don't know, I think it relied on the male gaze too much for, like, the visual interest of, like, the filmmaking, because just, like, zooming in on, I guess, like, Sue's, of course, like, body parts that are very, like, erotic and different, like, poses, like, while she's dancing. It's like, I don't mean to sound, like, puritanical, like, there's nothing, like, wrong with that, but it's just, like, clearly, it just feels weird, because it's, like, Hollywood, the people who are responsible for, like, setting, because they're in a position of power, and, like, influencers and stuff like that, like, they're in a position of power where they set these beauty standards, and then they make a film that's supposed to, like, criticize the industry. It's very meta, right? And it's very, like, hypocritical almost to watch, because it's like, this is so bizarre, you know? Like, y'all are basically making a film about y'all's own toxic culture, you know? It's very bizarre to watch it through that lens, you know? Because, you know, like, beauty standards are kind of like a staple of, like, a capitalist culture. There's always going to be a beauty standard, like, something for you to, like, aspire to, whether it be, like, having glassy perfect skin or having, like, the perfect body. Like, that's always going to be in existence, because you need people to buy stuff that they don't need, basically. And so in order to, like, improve their appearance or whatever, I don't know, it's very, like, weird. And then for me, it's like, with films, in order for me to consider it, like, a masterpiece or a really good piece of art in whatever medium it is, there has to be, like, layers of meaning that you can deconstruct. And I don't mean to sound, like, elitist or, like, hoity-toity about it or whatever, but it's like you can enjoy, like, there's like comfort shows that people like to watch because that's totally valid. Like if you like to watch the Office, for example, at the end of the day to, like, you know, unwind or whatever, that's perfectly fine. Like I'm not saying like you should only consume things that are like thought-provoking, like not at all. But I just don't think this substance really did what it set out to do very well. And whenever I watch a film that I know is going to be like a social critique of some kind, I really expect there to be layers of meaning, you know, for me to deconstruct. But with the substance, it didn't feel, it just didn't, it wasn't giving. It was just very like, it was very predictable. Whereas there's another movie I watched recently that I think I'm going to make another video on that was really good called, what was it called? Oh yeah, The Holy Mountain. It was made in the 1970s, and that is an amazing, like, surrealist film that has so many layers of meaning that you have to rewatch like multiple times in order to understand it. But it's a scathing critique of this capitalist society that we live in, and of course it's only gotten worse now, but this film was made in the 1970s, and it's a beautiful film. It's just, I don't know, I just feel like the substance, yeah, I just don't, it's a fun film. It's fun, like it's very aesthetically pleasing. It's a fun little watch, but it's not something I'm going to rewatch or think about very often, if that makes sense. But thanks for watching.